GPF pays attention after U.S. Embassy crime alert. Another fisherman goes missing. Linden man drops over 16 pounds of weed as he flees from the police. And why it's time to put Guyana first. I am Noriko Beaufort and this is Uncut News. Do you see news happening? Send us a tip on WhatsApp at 592-659-6151. 2 days after the U.S. Embassy issued its crime alert warning U.S. citizens and embassy staffers against visiting the Starbucks and border markets, the GPF is now moving to implement new strategies to increase security in high-traffic areas of the city, such as those markets. The crime alert said Georgetown is rated critical for crime, with incidents of robbery, sexual assault, vehicle accidents, and homicides occurring, particularly in high-risk areas after dark, with questions being raised about the swift reactionary response of the police force to the U.S. Embassy's complaint. Whilst complaints from locals were ignored, Home Affairs Minister Robeson Ben said it is only coincidental that the police force is moving into the area now, as they have reportedly been working on a super-secret, top-secret plan since November last. This includes additional cameras and route monitors for buses, a plan they just so conveniently decided to tell us about now. The Health Ministry is seeking to expand the essential healthcare services that will be provided at every health institution across Guyana. Thus far, the local health authorities have drafted 215 different health interventions that should be offered at every institution. In addition to that, Dr. Anthony said that each region will have its own specialized plan as well. For example, Regions 1, 7, 8, 9, and parts of 10 have a high rate of malaria, so services in these regions should focus on malaria testing and treatment and whatnot. The distribution of drugs to the various regions will also be dealt with through such a manner. Another fisherman has gone missing after his boat capsized. 28-year-old Suraj Daneshwar and the captain of the vessel went fishing yesterday morning. The small boat is reported to have capsized about Pushlot village, West Coast Belize, and 4 boats with relatives are currently out at sea searching for the missing fisherman. The captain of the fishing boat is now in police custody, assisting with the investigation into Daneshwar's disappearance. On Tuesday, GCOM terminated the services of one of its registration clerks after it was discovered that they were a polling agent for the PPP. Both Commissioner Says Gunraj and Vincent Alexander told Starbuck News that the issue came to light yesterday when the APNU AFC met with GCOM. Gunraj, who represents the PPP on the commission, said that Chief Election Officer Vishnu Prasad immediately dealt with the issue when it was brought to his attention and fired the person the very same day. While I appreciate the fast action, this honestly raises more questions than answers. I mean, why was this person even hired in the first place? Shouldn't the fact that they're a polling agent have been on record? And if there's one, could there be more? Now it's time to tell you about Best Buy's car of the day. Currently on sale is this 2014 Audi Q3. It comes with Bluetooth, mag rims, new tires, TV, CD, stereo, fog lamps, electronic parking brake, back camera, and much, much more. Buy cash for $5.6 million, or pay down as low as $1,120,000 down with around $108,000 monthly for 5 years, and it's yours. Call or WhatsApp 662-0844 for more info, or visit the showrooms at Lot 171 Peter Rush Street, Queenstown, or Lot 2 Lamar Street, and tell Enrico sent you for this sweet deal. This morning, 26-year-old Ian Gonzalez was charged for the murder of US-based Guyanese 21-year-old Lacan Chatterpole during a wedding celebration on March 9th. He was not required to plead to the charge of murder. Iona was remanded to prison and will be back in court May 31st. 2 of the suspects were initially arrested, while the third escaped. One of the suspects has since been released, whilst the third suspect, who is believed to have delivered the fatal blow to Chatterpole, remains in hiding. Over in Linden, a man successfully fled from the police Monday night, only to leave behind a motorcycle laden with 16.5 pounds of cannabis. Police headquarters reported that the motorcycle had no light and no license plate when officers attempted to stop the rider near Millie's hideout at Amelia's ward. They gave chase, but he escaped into some thick vegetation in the area. 47-year-old Elvis Tuesday, with a TH, so I guess that's Tuesday. Oh, wow. Anyway, Elvis Tuesday pleaded guilty to narcotics trafficking this morning. He was arrested on Saturday, not Tuesday, but Saturday, as he prepared to board a flight to Barbados with more than 40 pounds of marijuana in his suitcase. Kanu said the weed may have been smuggled into Guyana and was now being moved again. The suitcase's contents had a street value of 7 million Guyana dollars. It was supposedly what people like to call poppy weed. You got some weird name brands down here. You can multiply your cash by selling digital top-up. This is a legit way you can earn some extra money at your business or to supplement your current hustle. Look, I make top-up vendor quick and easy by linking with Cellular Plus. Call them on telephone number 685-3109 for more info. The Guyana Prison Service has built a shade house at the New Amsterdam Prison Farm in Region 6. The new initiative is a collaboration between the prison service and NORI to help boost the farm's agricultural production and maintain food security. Shade houses are like greenhouses in that they both allow for the cultivation of crops in a controlled environment. But, it's not made of glass. To this end, 3 staff members and 6 inmates from the New Amsterdam prison were trained in shade house practices. So, they get to learn a trade. Good stuff. Seeing as the government is now relaxing some of the Rona restrictions, it's plain to see that pretty soon they're going to stop giving us the Rona numbers. So with that being said, it's time for our final Rona report. Today, the nation recorded 12 new cases. There are now 1,226 persons dead, 5 in the ICU, 157 in home isolation. And the total number of confirmed cases around the nation now stands at 63,169. So please, people, wash your hands frequently. Avoid touching your nose and mouth and mask up before you leave the house. When you do leave home, try to avoid enclosed spaces and large crowds. And remember to give 6 feet of space between you and others, because the Rona is still dangerous even if no one still cares. Now for today's oil update. Spanish oil giant Repsol is being sanctioned by the Peruvian government for underreporting the quantity of crude that was spilled from one of the company's refineries and for allegedly reporting false information about the areas that were affected during the spill, which occurred in the Ventanilla Sea on January 15th of this year. It was reported that the spill was caused by shockwaves from an undersea volcanic eruption near Tonga in the South Pacific Ocean. The shockwaves damaged the connection between the Suez-Max tanker and one of the refinery's offshore mooring buoys. Repsol had stated that only 0.16 barrels of crude were spilled, affecting an area of 2.5 square meters. However, later investigations revealed that more than 10,000 barrels of crude had spilled over 11,061 hectares. In all, Repsol is facing fines as high as $15.8 million. But to top it all off, Repsol is one of the oil companies currently searching for oil offshore Guyana. So keep Repsol's track record in mind if they ever start oil production. Here, who said luxury can't be affordable? Move into your own home in 2022. Lenore Estates West Coast MRR properties are within your reach. Move out of the landlord's place and put that rent money towards your own 5,000 square foot property. Call or WhatsApp 592-618-5702 for more info. Now for our stupid news of the day. You know what I think is stupid? The fact that CARICOM businessmen seem to think that our Guyanese resources are suddenly theirs. Yeah, I know, true your chagaramas and all that stupidness. But to borrow a phrase from Trump, it's Guyana first, and it's our time to make Guyana great again. Not CARICOM, Guyana. This is Guyana's resources, and Guyanese need to have first dibs on it. Period. Not saying that they can't have any, but we need to have first dibs. Those greedy Highlander businessmen can just sit down and shut up for 3 reasons. 1. Where was all the consideration for our Guyanese businesses when Trinidad lets our agricultural products spoil in transit? Where was the consideration for our Guyanese brothers and sisters when Bayesians made people sit on the bench at the airport and treated them like criminals when they actually got out of the airport? Where were these concerned voices when Guyana was in the dark ages, when drugs, despair, and economic refugees were our only exports? Where were they? Well, they were too busy making money and looking down on us. So, it's time for us to look out for our own interests, because no one else will. Certainly not any of those greedy businessmen. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't an anti-CARICOM speech. I'm all for unity between CARICOM citizens because ultimately we're all one people. And not only are we all one people, but we're all part of one race, the human race. But I couldn't care less about the crocodile tears of some Trini fat cat businessman who doesn't care a lick about us. And if you're mistaking my love for my fellow citizens as hatred for others, then you, my friend, are pretty stupid. Now for our Uncut News Viewers Poll Question of the Day. Every day we pose a question about current events in Guyana, the region, the diaspora, and how you fear it relates to us. Yesterday's question was, how can the government help cushion the impact of inflation on your wallet? Lash says, the government can look at the root causes of inflation and simply put policies in place to prevent those instances of inflation. As much as inflation that happens locally is indeed preventable with good policy. For example, one of the most rampant forms of inflation in Guyana is simply caused by the food shortages like chicken. To that end, the government can have policies in place that support local chicken farms to increase their production or to encourage new individuals to engage in chicken production. and basically this strategy can just be replicated in each and every other industry. I agree. Tizzle Chipper 68 says, at minimum, the government should provide fuel subsidies for this temporary hike in fuel price, because fuel prices affect every other industry. Roger Wilson says, the government should pay better salaries to the working people in this country. Can you imagine the prices of all the things nowadays? And all the salary is just $20,000 a week to pay bills and rent from that? Most days, meals are going to be skipped. You know I always support paying the people more, so I agree. And finally, Barefoot Wanderer says, the government needs to stop printing money to cause inflation. Guyana does not have the taxpayers needed to pay back borrowed money. It cannot afford a welfare system to fund waiters, create jobs and pay the people a decent wage, have more farmers markets in every region. It needs to be farm to table and cut out the middlemen who raise the prices to pay themselves. If you can grow your own garden, so to do so, help yourself. I agree with that 100%. And you know, it's a shame we're only just like one generation removed from that. So for tonight's question, since it seems all of a sudden the police is actually interested in this, I want to know, what suggestions would you have for them for fighting crime and keeping people safe in our cities' markets? Think about that question. Tell us in the comments below. If your response is good enough, we just might feature it in our next episode. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight, and check us out tomorrow for another. Until then, I'm Rico Bulford saying good night, folks.